Aston Martin's billion-dollar gamble has exploded on the test track. In the last 48 hours, Planet F1 reports that confirmation from Bahrain reveals their new in-house gearbox isn't just failing, it is physically shattering under the force of the Honda engine. To understand the gravity of this disaster, we have to look at the calendar. According to the official Formula One schedule, it is February 2026. The Formula One paddock is currently in Bahrain for pre-season testing, the very first real-world trial of the 2026 regulations outlined by teams like Williams. For the last 3 years, Lawrence Stroll has been building toward this specific moment. As detailed in Aston Martin's own press releases, he built a new factory, hired Adrian Newey, and, most importantly, ditched the Mercedes partnership to become a full factory works team with Honda. This move was confirmed by Global Honda back in 2023. The strategy was clear, as beating the best requires building everything yourself. That meant Aston Martin stopped buying gearboxes from Mercedes and decided to engineer their own transmission for the first time in their modern history. But that decision has triggered a catastrophic chain reaction. As the AMR 26 hit the asphalt this week, Motorcycle Sports reports that the data screens lit up with warnings. The car isn't just slow, it is fundamentally broken. We are talking about a mechanical integration failure so severe that it threatens to wipe out their entire 2026 campaign before the first race lights even go out. This isn't a minor glitch. This is a structural crisis that exposes the dangers of trying to change too much, too fast, in the world's most ruthless sport. The technical root of this failure is physical. The new 2026 power unit regulations demand a massive increase in electrical power, which places unprecedented torque loads on the drivetrain. But reports from the garage suggest the problem isn't just torque, it is vibration. The new Honda internal combustion engine is allegedly producing high-frequency harmonics that the Aston Martin chassis simply wasn't designed to dampen. These vibrations are traveling straight down the driveshaft and shaking the gearbox casing until it cracks. It is a classic integration nightmare. When they used Mercedes parts, the engine and gearbox were developed by partner facilities in Brixworth and Brackley that had worked together for over a decade. Now you have a Japanese engine mating to a British gearbox, and the two components are effectively fighting each other. Fernando Alonso was seen aborting multiple laps, not because of driver error, but because the car physically refused to downshift aggressively without risking a complete mechanical seizure. The numbers themselves are frankly unbelievable. In Formula One, a gap of 4/10 is a problem, while a gap of 4 seconds is a different sport entirely. Yet that is the figure circulating the paddock right now. Racing News 365 highlights that Lawrence Stroll was clocked lapping 4.5 seconds slower than the pace setters during the opening runs. Even accounting for heavy fuel loads and conservative engine modes, that deficit is astronomical. It suggests the team has had to dial back the engine power drastically just to keep the car in one piece. They aren't testing for performance anymore, they are driving for survival. Pedro de la Rosa, the team ambassador, tried to put a brave face on it, but the telemetry doesn't lie. The car is slow on the straights because of the drag, and it's slow in the corners because the drivers can't trust the transmission to slow them down. If you want to stay ahead on every major development in the automotive world, make sure you hit subscribe and ring that bell. We track these stories daily, so you don't have to. Now, back to the crisis in Bahrain. This disaster brings us back to the arrogance of the in-house strategy. For years, Aston Martin bought their gearboxes and rear suspension from Mercedes. It was a plug-and-play solution that guaranteed reliability. But Lawrence Stroll wanted independence. He wanted to control his own destiny. The problem is that building a Formula One gearbox is an art form that takes decades to master. You need specific metallurgy, proprietary cooling channels, and hydraulic systems that operate with surgical precision under 5G forces. Aston Martin tried to build this department from scratch in just over 2 years. They underestimated the complexity. Now, they are paying the price. Teams like Ferrari and McLaren are refining their setups, while Aston Martin is essentially learning how to build a transmission in public, with the whole world watching them fail. Everyone is asking where Adrian Newey fits into this. The design engineer joined the team in March 2025, but the brutal reality is that he arrived too late. The fundamental architecture of the AMR26, including the aggressive packaging, was defined by Newey himself, but the project started months behind rivals due to wind tunnel delays. He is effectively trying to fix a house that was built on a crumbling foundation. Sources say Newey was extremely direct in the debrief, admitting openly that the current package is not working. He isn't a magician, he is an engineer, and right now he is stuck watching a car that violates his core principles of efficiency and integration. The fear is that Newey will have to spend the next year firefighting these mechanical failures rather than doing what he does best, finding aerodynamic performance. He didn't sign up to fix broken gears. He signed up to win championships. The timeline for a fix is the most damaging part of this story. You cannot just patch a gearbox with duct tape. If the casing is cracking under vibration, you need to re-engineer the entire casting. You need new molds, new materials, and new crash tests. Experts from Marca are estimating a minimum of 6 months to design, manufacture, and homologate a new gearbox specification. 6 months. That means the 2026 season is effectively a write-off before it even begins. By the time they have a working transmission in July or August, the championship leaders will be out of sight. Fernando Alonso, who extended his contract hoping for one last shot at a title, is now facing a year of driving a development mule at the back of the grid. His frustration is already visible in the garage, and history tells us that an unhappy Alonso is a ticking time bomb. The bleeding isn't just happening on the track, it's pouring out of the balance sheet. Aston Martin Lagonda's stock price has taken another hammer blow, dropping over 40% in the last year alone. The company is already sitting on a debt pile that makes investors sweat, and they needed the 2026 F1 success to drive road car sales. This F1 project was supposed to be the marketing engine that sold the Valhalla and the new Vanquish. Instead, it is becoming a public embarrassment that damages the brand's reputation for engineering competence. If you can't build a gearbox for your race car, customers might not trust the hybrid transmission in your $3 million hypercar. The connection between the track and the road is real, and right now, that connection is toxic. Lawrence Stroll is not a man known for his patience. Reports from the paddock describe a furious atmosphere in the hospitality unit. He has poured hundreds of millions into this facility, wind tunnel, and recruitment drive. To be 4 seconds off the pace is not just a failure, it is a personal insult to his investment. There are rumors of immediate personnel changes being discussed. Stroll has fired team principals for less than this. The pressure on team principal Andy Cowell, chief trackside officer Mike Crack, and the technical directors is now suffocating. They sold Stroll a vision of factory independence, and that vision has delivered a lemon. The question is no longer about winning races in 2026. It is about who keeps their job when the team returns to Silverstone next week. This gearbox crisis echoes a disturbing pattern with their road cars. The Valhalla supercar, which was meant to be the road-going cousin of this F1 technology, has suffered delay after delay. It was also plagued by powertrain integration issues, switching from a V6 to a Mercedes V8 and struggling with its complex hybrid system. Customers who put down deposits years ago are still waiting for consistent deliveries. It paints a picture of a company that consistently bites off more than it can chew. They promise revolution, but the engineering reality keeps dragging them back to earth. Whether it's the AMR26 or the Valhalla, the story is the same. ambitious concepts let down by mechanical fragility. And in the luxury market, fragility is the one thing you cannot afford. The consequences of this failure will reshape the entire grid. For Aston Martin, 2026 is rapidly turning from a dream into a nightmare. They face a humiliating season of blue flags and early retirements while they scramble to redesign a fundamental component of the car. But the wider implication concerns the risk of going it alone. This failure vindicates teams like Williams, who chose to keep buying proven gearboxes from suppliers rather than risking everything on in-house manufacturing. We might also see the end of the Alonso era sooner than expected. Fernando does not race to make up the numbers, and he certainly doesn't race to test beta software for a team that promised him a championship car. If the fix really takes 6 months, don't be surprised if he starts looking at other options or retirement before the season concludes. And for Adrian Newey, this is the ultimate test. He has turned around failing teams before, but he has never had to do it with a car that is physically shaking itself to pieces. The next few weeks will determine if this project can be salvaged, or if the British Ferrari is destined to remain a midfield tragedy. Whatever happens next, the Aston Martin we see in Melbourne will not be the car they promised the world. They bet the farm on independence, and the house is winning. If you want to follow this development race as they try to save their season, hit that subscribe button right now.